Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today's talk is about building genuine Islamic financial institutions. What I would like to say is that today what financial institutions we see are copies of Western institutions and are not genuine Islamic institutions. For reasons that I will like to clarify, Western financial institutions are based on different concepts and they cannot be Islamized, contrary to popular belief. So that's basically the main idea. I will try to develop the details of this. So first of all, what is an institution? Institution is like, a bank is an institution, insurance company, your manufacturing, there are many, any organization of people who are trying to do something, they have inputs, they have outputs. It's an institution, it's an organized way of doing things. So first of all, the institution is a body, but what drives the institution is a spirit. So given a society, if a society wants to collectively accomplish some goal, it has to create an institution to achieve that goal. For example, I want to educate the children of Pakistan. Well, I have to build schools. So the school is the institution, but this institution has a purpose. The purpose is to educate children. Similarly, universities, similarly hospitals, all institutions are designed to achieve some purpose. So we have a bank. Now the question is, what is the purpose of a bank? This question is not going to be immediately obvious from the institution, because the purpose is like the ruh, and the institution is like the body. So the body is there in the open, but the purpose is concealed. So innamal a'mal bin niyat, value of action is dependent on the intention. So we need to ask, what is the purpose of an Islamic financial institution? Before we start building them and before we start evaluating them, we must first consider this question. Now we have a society, like a school is designed to educate children. So if I am going to build an Islamic bank, what is the purpose of this Islamic bank going to be? So the common answers to this is that, well, we Muslims have been left far behind in the race for worldly wealth and power, and so we need to catch up with the West. West has banks, so we must have banks. So this is not a very suitable or desirable or satisfactory answer. Another commonly known purpose is that the West has done a lot of things which are haram, and in fact the Western banking is haram. And because the West is dominant, Muslims are doing haram things, so we need to provide them with an alternative, which is halal. So again, this is a very unsatisfactory answer for reasons that I will explain. So what are the goals? Actually, what I want to say is that the goals of a Western society are very different from the goals of a Islamic society. Now, actually, in the West, there was a process in which something that was considered very harmful and bad and evil became considered as good and desirable and valuable. And this thing was the accumulation of wealth. In the Bible, it is written that the love of wealth is the root of all evil. And the wealthy man cannot get to paradise until the camel can pass through the eye of a needle. And in general, the accumulation of wealth, hoarding, was considered an immoral and undesirable thing. Then there occurred a great transformation in Europe, which is the details of which are long and complicated, in which everything that was bad became considered as good. And so in particular, the idea of greed, which is considered as an immoral thing and a harmful thing and is condemned in the Bible, became considered as a good thing. And similarly, the accumulation of wealth, hoarding, which used to be considered a bad thing, became considered a good thing. So now, when this purpose, the accumulation of wealth, hoarding money, became considered a good thing, then an institution was built to support this purpose. So this purpose, the collection of money and the storing and the saving of money and the accumulation of money, this is not a valid purpose in an Islamic society. So now when the purpose of an institution is to achieve a goal which is not desirable according to Islam, then no matter how you make the body, the spirit of the institution is wrong, and so it cannot achieve the correct, it cannot be Islamic, because until you change the purpose. But if the bank is designed to achieve a certain purpose and you change the purpose, then it will no longer be a bank, it will be something else. And I'll explain what it would be. So anyway, what I wanted to say is the goals of Western society are very different from goals of an Islamic society. What are the goals of an Islamic society? Well, the primary goal is to provide justice on all fronts, social, economic, political. So, financial institutions must also be part of provision of this goal. We should ensure the provision of food, clothing, housing, education, training in job skills, microfinance. These are permissible goals in Islamic economics, in an Islamic economy. They should create cooperation. They should lead to building of community, creating love and togetherness among the members of the society. They should lead to people feeling compassion for each other. Money should be used for tazkiyah, for purification of the heart. So the question is, do Islamic financial institutions achieve any of these goals which are permissible or desirable from an Islamic point of view? Max Weber said that the spirit of capitalism is the pursuit of wealth, the making of money. This is the ultimate purpose of life, to make more and more money. Money is not made for doing something else. I mean, money is, of course, you can't eat money. So normally, from going back to Aristotle, he said that money is not desirable for itself. You acquire money because you want to do something with it. But in capitalism, this is no longer the case. You acquire money because fi nafsehi, money is desirable. So this is actually specifically condemned in the Quran, that somebody who acquires money but without the intention of spending it for some valid Sharia purpose, just for the sake of piling up money, this is not permissible. So this is the ultimate form of corruption. And you see today the effects of this spirit of capitalism, that the purpose of an education for a student is to earn money. This is again not a permissible purpose. The purpose of a teacher to teach is to earn money. The purpose of a doctor to treat patients is to earn money. This is really extremely harmful. Innamal a'mal binniyat. If a doctor in an Islamic society, he serves a patient because he says that to save a life is like saving all of humanity. So if he serves the patient with this purpose, then this is ibadat. But if he says that how many sick people there are, I am so happy because I will make more income, then this is not a permissible thing. And actually, this is a joke. This is not a joke, but in Shifa they were having interviews. They assess the students, the newcomers. So one of the students, they were asked, what will happen if there is an epidemic? So the student said, well, the doctors will make more money. So, I mean, this is the first thing that he understands, that the purpose of a disease is for a doctor to make money from it. So this is not a permissible purpose. So similarly, what is the purpose of a bank? It is to enable people to store money and to grow their money. So today Islamic banking students are assessing the efficiency of the Islamic financial institutions. So how are they assessing this efficiency? They are using these data envelopment analysis and stochastic frontiers, and how are they assessing? But these are just techniques. But what are they assessing them on? The criteria. The criteria: how profitable is it? How much money do they provide to the shareholders? What is the market share? How much stability it has in financial crisis? But are these criteria which are relevant from an Islamic point of view? Are these the goals to make money for your stockholders? These are not desirable goals. As I said, we should ask them, are they providing social justice? Are they feeding the hungry? Are they preventing the concentration of wealth? These are the things that Islam asks us to do. So they should be judged according to things that are considered desirable by Islamic criteria, not by Western criteria, not by Weber's capitalistic criteria. So the Western institutions arise, they didn't just come into being from nowhere. They have a history. They came into existence because the West, in its mad pursuit of wealth, went and colonized the whole world, brutally destroying existing societies all over the world. In Pakistan and India, we had WAQF, and we had a very well organized system for educating, providing health services and social services to all of the population for free. There was no concept of a tuition fee, and anybody who was sick would get treatment without having to pay for it. This whole network was funded by WAQF, and these were all destroyed by the British and replaced by the current modern system, in which if you want food, you have to pay money for it. If you want education, you have to pay money for it. If you are poor, you are not entitled to anything. So this is not an Islamic concept. So because the West went and conquered the world and they exploited the whole world, so their whole systems are based on exploitation. After you loot the whole world and you take their money, like millions of pounds were extracted from India and transferred to England, then what are you going to do with this money? Well, you want to store it and you want to grow it. So these institutions are built on exploitation, injustice, zulm, taking advantage of the poor and the weak. And this is what these institutions are designed to do, and this is what they are doing very effectively today. Today we have 8 people in the world who own more money than 3.5 billion of the bottom population. And why? This is very strongly due to banks. Banks play a very important function in concentrating wealth in the hands of a very few people. Exactly that which is prohibited in the Quran. So one of the key functions of the bank is riba, or interest. And what the riba does is that it ensures that the wealthy can make money without taking any risk. The key principle of Islamic finance is that money cannot make money. If you want to make money, then you must participate in the risks of doing business. So this is the key, that you make money not because you own money. Ownership of money is not a productive activity. This is very important because the West says exactly the opposite thing. According to the West, according to modern economic theory, ownership of money is a productive function. You are entitled to earn money because you own money. Now in Islam it says that if you use that money to run a business and you participate in the risks of business, then because you participate in the risks, that is a productive activity, and for that you are entitled to earn a share of the profits. So in the capitalist system, the owner of money lends money to business, but all of the risk of doing business is borne by the businessman himself. So this is the fact that this is very unjust is recognized by all. So there is this famous play by Shakespeare where Shylock the Jew lends money to merchant Antonio, and the merchant and he asks for a return for this. So the merchant uses this money to put some cargo on his ship, and he sends it for trading, and the ship sinks. So far so good. Now the thing is that the Shylock wants his money back and the interest, even though the ships have sunk. So this is exactly the problem that Islam says that it's not allowed. That if your businessman does well, then he can pay you back out of the return. But if the ship has sunk, then you cannot get your money back and interest. And this basic injustice is at the heart of the financial system, the Western financial system. The global financial crisis which took place recently was caused by the greed of Western financial institutions, who got a return even though they were not entitled to return, because actually what happened was that because of the existence of the interest contract. In fact, a book by Amir Mia and Atif Mia and Amir Sufi at Yale called The House of Debt, they have explained that if the contracts were done Islamic style with musharka, the global financial crisis would not have happened. Very simple. What happened was that the banks, they made use of two haram instruments in order to create the global financial crisis. One was the instrument of interest. The banks lent money to homeowners to purchase homes. They knew for sure that this loan is going to fail. And they also knew that the housing market is going to collapse. But because their return was not tied to the performance of the loan, they didn't care. There were two things that were done. First of all, they gave a loan. I give you a loan of $100,000. You use it to buy the house. Right? I know that you don't have enough money to pay me $100,000 back. You have contracted an installment. You are going to pay me $1,000 every month for 120 months. So, but I know that you're not going to be able to make these payments. For maybe you'll be able to make 1 or 2 or 3 payments, but after that, you will collapse. You will default on your loan. So ordinarily, I would not make this loan because I want my money back. But what happened was that they would make this loan, and then they would sell this loan to some other unsuspecting victim. And now this is haram. You cannot sell debt, but that's exactly what was done. But also they had these insurance contracts, and they had many other tricks that they could use. So they made, and the end result was that the person who took that loan, he became bankrupt. All of his assets, all of his wealth was wiped out in bankruptcy. And so basically there was a huge loss of wealth in the middle class of Americans, and that is what led to the Great Recession. And all of this money was transferred to the top. So the underlying spirit of this is that profits is king. In the MBA program at Harvard, they teach you that your goal is to make profits. and the bottom line is all that matters, and you have no social responsibility. So if you can deceive others to make profit, as long as it's legal, this is fine. They say, let the buyer beware. I am selling you a loan, and I know that you will default, but it's not my job to tell you, to protect you. Let the buyer beware. You should look out after your interest. I am looking after mine. This is called the jungle of cutthroat competition. This is how efficiency is achieved. So the underlying spirit is to make profits regardless of consequences to others. Today lots of people are asking me about bitcoins. So this is another scam. It is a scheme to make profits. Why? You see, if once you start thinking Islamically, everything becomes clear. You see, you are entitled to earn money only if you do something productive. So why do you want to buy bitcoins? Because you want to make money? But what is your contribution to society which entitles you to make money? So if I buy dollars and I know that dollars are going up tomorrow, then this is just gambling. If I buy bitcoins because I think that this is just gambling. Maybe bitcoins go up, they go on. If I want to earn money, I should do something productive to earn money. This is the basic fundamental principle of Islam. That my earnings should be because I did something good for somebody else, for the society. If I do some productive activity valuable, if I buy a prize bond and then I get a large prize, what did I do that was valuable, that makes it worthwhile for me to earn this money? I should not even participate. I mean, if somebody says that I'm giving you this much, your mobile has come up in the lottery. What is the what makes this money halal for me? For money to be halal for me, it should be the reward for something valuable that I did. Once you understand this, then you will be safe from a lot of fraud. But it is actually, fraud is done because people desire to earn money cheaply without doing any work for it. Because they have this temptation in their heart, then they can be fooled into buying bitcoins, into buying stocks, into buying a lot of things which are actually ways to loot the ignorant who do not know the real tricks that are being played. So a few people make a lot of money out of a lot of ignorant people, and the main hook, you see, which attracts people is their desire to make money without doing anything productive for it. So the interest rate has been used to tie up the whole world in debt. The Nigerian president said that we borrowed 5 billion up to 1985. Since then we have paid 16 billion and 28 billion still remains in interest. This is in 1999 or something like that. So the interest is a great tool, and today, you see, in the up until World War I, the Europe ruled the world by force. They had colonies all over the world. About 90% of the world was colonized. But after World War I was actually a fight among European powers, and it broke their strength. Millions of people, some 50 million people died in the world wars. So they were unable to maintain their empires by force, and there was liberation all over the Islamic world and the non-Islamic world as well. However, so they used, so in the post-World War I, they are using a different trick and a trap. Basically, they use this complicated monetary and financial system, which we don't understand, to take advantage of us. They give us loans. They sell these loans on false grounds using false economic theory to deceive us, like that famous book called The Hitman, The Economic Hitman. He would do econometric analysis and show that it is in your benefit to take this loan. And of course it was not, like Obasanjo. So today the West is still You see, in the colonial system, what was the point of colonization? It was to extract the wealth from the poor countries. And today, exactly the same result is being achieved by the means of this loans and interest. The richest country give loans to the poorest country, and today, every year, billions of dollars are transferred in interest payments to the rich countries. So, the function of banks is, what is the purpose of banks? It is to encourage saving of money and encourage hoarding. It pools money for investors, and it transfers money from the poor to the rich. Islam prohibits both of these things. Islam prohibits accumulation of wealth, and Islam encourages the circulation of wealth instead of the holding and hoarding and concentration of wealth. So, how can we make a bank Islamic when these are the functions it is designed to accomplish? In fact, you see, what should I do? Suppose that I went to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I said, "O Prophet of Islam, I have 1 billion rupees in my possession. What should I do with it?" So would he advise me that, okay, I will tell you how to make 2 billion rupees from this? Of course not. In fact, this actually happened after the Khaybar people went and said, "O Prophet of Islam, I have lots of money. What should I do with it?" So he said, "Put this into WAQF. You should spend it on others. If you have more than what you need, then you don't want to make even more than what you need." That's nonsense. That's ridiculous. It's irrational. If you have more than what you need, there are other people, your brothers and sisters, who are in need. So spend it on them. Then when your time comes, people will say, "Oh, in fact the Quran says, if you do that, the shaitan will scare you. He will say, oh, you will become poor. Don't fear him." This is just ridiculous. In a society which is caring and sharing society, I give to anybody who asks, because they are all my brothers and sisters. And when I am in need, I can get from anybody who asks. So I am rich even if I don't have any money. So, why have the ulama supported Islamic financial institutions? Well, it seems that compromise is necessary today. And actually the ulama in the start did not support these things. And in fact, the first generation of scholars strongly rejected capitalist models of finance, and they said that we have much better models. And the point is that in order to get to genuine Islamic models, you need to make revolution. You cannot make evolution. You cannot make small changes. You have to make big changes. But later on, in the late 70s, it was realized that no Islamic revolution is coming. So people said that let's be pragmatic, let's be practical. Since we cannot create a genuine radical Islamic product, let's just take what we have and try to modify it to make it Islamic. So even those revolutions which were successful, like in Iran and in Afghanistan, they did not have a genuine Islamic alternative in mind. They asked, people asked Khomeini that, okay, today we can get rid of banks, so what should we do? He did not have any idea. Similarly, the people in Taliban came to ask in Pakistan, the Islamic economist, well, we don't want interest, what is the non-interest based system? So we didn't have anything other than second-rate copies of Western models. Why? Because why nakami matae karma jata raha, karma ki dil se ehsaas-e ziyan jata raha. Not only is it that the genuine Islamic institutions were destroyed, but even we have forgotten what they were. So the models don't exist anymore. So the idea that there is no alternative, since we have to live in this world, we have to live in the situation. Darya mein rahenge to magarmach se kya bair? So that is why the ulama said that this is the necessity of the time, that we have to have banks. Obviously, if I say that don't use banks, it's like saying that, okay, don't use cars, don't use ovens, and don't use gas, and don't use electricity. We don't have the option. So whatever, even if it is, and many ulama recognize that there are many problems and defects and issues, but we do what we can. This was the spirit. So the question is, are banks necessary? And if banks are necessary for survival, and somebody went to the Mufti in Egypt and said that, look, if you shut down interest, people will starve. And actually, this is a correct statement, in the sense that today, if I was to pass a law that all interest is banned in Pakistan, the economy would collapse. It's not that it will not collapse, it will collapse. Because banks are necessary within a capitalist system. So on this basis, the Mufti of Egypt, he gave the fatwa that yes, interest is jaiz, because he said that this is the permission, this is the position of Islam, that if something is necessary for survival, then it is permissible. You can even eat pork if you are hungry in istirar. So on the assumption that banks are necessary, and it is true that within a capitalist system, you see, you have a capitalist system, it has markets, it has insurance, it has courts, contracts, many other things. They are all institutions, they are all supporting each other. In this institution, you say that, okay, let's remove interest, but everything else remains the same. So then that structure will collapse. So within a capitalist system, you say only thing we want to change is that we want to ban interest, everything else must remain the same. Then this cannot be done. So banks are necessary within an Islamic system. So if you say that, okay, the whole system will remain capitalistic, then it is necessary to Islamize banks, and this is the position that has been taken by the ulama. Now, if you change the whole system, then banks are no longer necessary. For 1,000 years, Muslims ran an economy without any banks. So a small change cannot achieve the result that we want. We need to make very major changes. And actually nobody has a clear idea of what these major changes are. So when Khomeini was told that, okay, we have a free hand, we can start from scratch. But there was no clarity on what should be done. So basically this is because living in a market economy like we do, where we are all individuals, we rely on market transactions for our food. And so the market society that we live in creates certain mindsets, certain ways of thinking about the world. And these ways of thinking have penetrated our hearts and minds. So first thing that we do that is required by Islam is tazkiyah. We have to clean our hearts of the poison that we have all absorbed because we are living in a market society. Because we are conditioned to think that if I want an education, I have to have money. And how can we provide health to the people? Today, just a little while ago, there was a talk about providing health services. How can we provide health services to the poor if they do not pay for it? On the other hand, it's clear that Islam ethically requires that we want to provide health, we want to provide education, but how are you going to do it without money? Because in a capitalist system, you need money to do anything. Without money, you can't do anything. Now, it is not true that, but this is how a capitalist system makes you think, that you need money for anything. There are certain assumptions that are made in economic theory about human behavior. The assumptions are that human beings are naturally selfish and that their goal in life is to maximize consumption, and that greed is good. If we are selfish and we hoard and we accumulate wealth, this will create paradise on earth, because we will have lots of goods, and that's what paradise is. All of these are false assumptions, but these are widely believed even by Muslims. Now, the Islamic understanding of human beings is very sophisticated and very complex, not easily understood even by Muslims, unfortunately. I have found that. So, people say, oh, so you are saying Muslims are human beings are generous. No. Actually, what Islam says is that in the heart of every Muslim is a battleground between good and evil. On the inna nafsa amaratum bisu, yes, the nafs has tendency to call towards the evil, but at the same time, the soul and the spirit has the tendency to like and love good things. So the heart of the human being is a battleground between the one tendency which is for the good and one tendency is for the evil. وَهَدَيْنَهُ النَّجْدَيْنِ, Allah Ta'ala has shown us both the pathways of good and evil, and now we have a choice and we are free to choose the evil and we are also free to choose the good. So the problem for us is not as some people think, that we assume all people are generous and then we design system accordingly. The problem is, how can we make people prefer the good, and how can we make people reject the evil? This is Amr bil Maruf and Nahi anil Munkar. This is what is the main requirement of Islam, and this is what the main purpose of an Islamic government is. The goal of an Islamic economy is not description. This is how people are. That is what economic theory tells you, that we just describe objectively. Everybody is selfish. It's completely wrong. It's bogus. It's false theory. Then they ask, well, because actually lots of evidence exists for showing that actually human beings are very generous, very charitable. They behave well towards others. They give even though they are not compelled to. So then the economics books, the behavioral economics books ask the question, are human beings selfish or are they generous? So even this is a wrong question. According to Islamic understanding, every human being has the tendency for selfishness, including the greatest saint, and every person, even the worst person who is the most stingiest and hoarding, like Qarun, he also in his heart has the tendency and the capability and the possibility to do good and to be generous. So the question is, how can we intervene? We are not trying to describe human behavior. We can't. Human behavior is complex. The question is, how do we arrange things so that people act nicely, so that they are encouraged to do the good and they are prevented from doing the evil. So the banks express the spirit of hoarding and accumulation, and they encourage the tendency towards greed and towards selfishness and towards not caring about others. There is a book which is called The Institution of Usury, from Universal Brotherhood to Universal Otherhood. This was an old book written in Christian England, and said that, we are preaching in Christianity that there is universal brotherhood, everyone is the brother of the other. But when we start charging interest, we are actually causing the opposite. We are encouraging people to take advantage of others. If somebody needs a loan, then you want to take advantage of his need to make a profit. So this is not a brotherly act. This is not a friendly act. So the bank express the spirit of hoarding, accumulation, selfishness, greed, and this is the central institution of the capitalist society. For 1,000 years, Islamic societies dominated the world. They didn't have any banks. What was the central institution? Well, the spirit of Islam is not of hoarding, it's of giving. So what is the institution which expresses this spirit? This institution is the WAQF. So if a person had excess money in a capitalist society, he says, okay, let me earn interest on it. in an Islamic society, قُلْ لِلْعَفْوِ, what is excess should be spent on others. So the Muslims said that let me make earnings of the akhirah. Let me use this excess money to purchase the Jannah, which is very cheap, which is a very good tijara. So he said that the people used their money to create waqf, charities. And in the Ottoman Empire, 1/3 of the land which is registered in the records was registered for waqf. So it's not that it was small scale. And historians have documented that everybody could eat, everybody could, there was universal literacy, anybody who wanted to could get an education. There was no concept of tuition fee, and everybody was provided health service for free by the state. So, what should we do? Let's come to the prescriptions. Well, there are two different objects which have been combined in banks. So one of the objects is that if somebody has money, he wants to keep it safe. This is called amana, and this comes from the time of the Prophet ﷺ. So we need a place which we can use to keep money safe. There is no interest. Darul Amana, some institution like this is an Islamic institution, it can be done. There is another thing that one wants to do with money, which is to invest it to earn an interest. This is also Islamic business. This was also done. The Prophet ﷺ took in the before his prophethood, he took money from the tujjar and he did business and he gave them return. So this is also possible. If you want to use your money to do business and earn return, this is also permissible, as long as you participate in risk and as long as you don't get interest for it. So this is also possible, but the main possibility for using wealth which is in excess of what you want, what you need, is to give it to others using WAQF. And in a society which is a caring and sharing and giving society, in a society where the hearts are joined, in a society where if one portion feels pain, everybody else feels pain, then I don't need to accumulate money. This accumulation of money is essential in a jungle, in a cutthroat competition world in which nobody else cares anything about you. Everyone is selfish, everyone is greedy. All they want, nobody is going to help you when you are in need. Then you have to have money in your bank because no other person is going to help you. So in an Islamic society, you don't need money in your bank because you have thousands of brothers and sisters. All of them are ready to take your burden first. Just like our Prophet ﷺ was Rahmatul lil Alameen, and the Quran describes him as saying that he feels your pain more than you feel it. So the purpose of our institutions needs to be to create cooperation, generosity, trust, love, and this is something which the WAQF can do because the WAQF gives to others. So actually it is the act of giving which creates love. So if everybody who is in need, somebody comes and says, "Oh, look, I see that you are hungry, let me give you food." I didn't ask him for it, he came himself. This is what the WAQF does. The WAQF, they are not, as actually the Quran says, that the people who are in need, they hide their need. So the job of the WAQF and the job of the owner of the wealth is to find out who is needy, and even if he is secret, you find out his secret and you help him in secret, while preserving his honor and dignity. So the loan in Islam is of the form of qarz hasana. See, the Islamic microfinance the idea that, like Grameen Bank, etc., the idea that we can earn money from the poor, this is not compatible with Islamic ideas. Islam says if somebody is poor, I should not be concerned about earning money from him. I should be concerned about providing them with a qarz-e hasana, which if they have the possibility to return, they will return. If they don't, then they will not. Similarly, you see the insurance and takaful. These are dramatically different contracts. The insurance contract is an adversarial concept. It is a contract between two enemies. I give you insurance, health insurance, or I give you fire insurance. So you can set fire to your house and claim the money from me, and I will, when you claim money, I will try to minimize the amount of money that I pay you, and I will try to find clauses in the contract to make sure that I don't get to pay you. Your loss is my gain, and my loss is your gain. So, as opposed to this, takaful is a cooperative contract. It is a contract of brotherhood and love. All together we decide that, okay, we are forming a company, and if anybody's house is burned down, let us all put 1,000 rupees into a pool, and if somebody's house is burned down, then he will get the help of the rest of us. Now, if I have a small fire, I say, these are all my brothers, why should I put any burden on them? If I can take care of my own problem, I will take. So, there is this insurance pool for fires, but I will say that I will fix my own problem. But the other people say, look, your house burned and this money is for that purpose. No, you should take from this money. So that is a cooperative contract. This is the takaful, that we are trying to take care of each other. Takaful means taking care of each other. So the takaful is a friendly contract. It creates bonds. The person you are trying to give the money to says, no, I don't need any help. And they say, no, you must take our help. This is the purpose of this money. So this is the difference between an Islamic contract. Today, unfortunately, the takaful, instead of being modeled along Islamic lines, it is modeled along Western lines. They try to imitate the Western insurance contracts, and it is the same. It's an adversarial contract, just like the West, because the spirit has not been changed. The form has been changed to match the Sharia. So today we need to make very bold steps. The Prophet ﷺ, he created a revolution in history. He took the backwards and ignorant Arabs and he made them leaders of the world. How did he do this? This was because of the radical teachings of Islam. Today we don't want to have that. Today we think that the revolution will be brought by imitating the West. That's impossible. The West has destroyed the whole planet. And today they are, in the leading company, every day some student comes out with a gun and he shoots little children, and this is normal, and this is considered as civilization, and these are the models for us to follow. So the deen came as a stranger and it will become a stranger. This is what the prophecy was, and today it is true that the Islam is a stranger to the Muslims. Today we have parliaments and democracy. We don't have Khilafah and Shura. We have Western laws and courts. We don't have Sharia and Qazi. Today the Muslims pay for their education, and they don't have universal literacy like in the olden times. We have adopted the social rights and norms of alien cultures. Our trade and business follow Jews and Christians laws, not Islamic laws. So in every front, in every dimension of our life, we are living according to un-Islamic values. So in order to arrive at Islamic models, we need to make very radical changes, not minor modifications. If we try, you see, this is the revolution that is built on changing the hearts of people. It is not the first thing that is needed to change is the mindset. Today we are living in a market society where we have a money mindset. Everything is everything in a capitalist society is evaluated in terms of money. The value of a human life is how much money can he make. But Islam teaches us that every human is infinitely precious, that one human life is worth the entire mankind, billions of lives. So we cannot calculate the value of a human life in terms of money. But today our minds are set by money. The students come and ask me that what is the line of education, what is the degree I need to get in order to maximize the money that I earn. So I tell them that, look, if you make the intention to serve the ummah and forget about money, Allah Ta'ala will give you more money than you can imagine. But if you make the intention to earn money, then all of this will be wasted. So, the revolution of Islam was based on many things, but there are some golden rules that we need to reawaken, so that if we want to build institution on Islamic basis. The first thing is that we are one community. It is the ummah is like one body. If one part is hurt, then all parts feel the pain. These are all revolutionary ideas that Islam brought and implemented. But today we have forgotten them, and today they are so far from our lives that we think that this is foolish to talk about it, that this cannot be achieved. These are foolish dreams. But actually the Prophet ﷺ did it and showed it. Otherwise, people would say you're talking nonsense. This is something which is not possible to do. So, Prophet ﷺ said that the leader of the nation is the one who serves the people. This is exactly the opposite of what leaders are doing. Today they are extracting service from the people. The Prophet ﷺ said, tells that the power is given to us in order to help the poor, not to oppress them. Wealth is given so that we can help the needy, not to flaunt it like Qarun, not to purchase luxuries, which is today everybody thinks that wealth is for purchase of luxuries. So the WAQF is the first place. The primary Islamic financial institution is WAQF. Secondarily, there are other Sharia legitimate purposes for accumulation of wealth. Since people often misunderstand what I am saying, one of the requirements of the Sharia is to feed yourself and your family. So if you do that with the intention of obeying Allah, then earning money for yourself and for your family is also worship. It is not selfish and greedy, it is just. Alright, so I think there are many, actually in my paper by the title Building Genuine Islamic Financial Institutions, I have described many different things that Muslims can do which other people cannot do, which will create very new and very different types of financial institutions which cannot be replicated in the West. But we need to first reorient our minds, to cleanse our minds and hearts of the poison that we have ingested by living in market societies and absorbing capitalist ideas and studying economic theories which teach us that every human being is selfish and that the goal of life is to maximize consumption. So let me stop. So I think to end, I would like to say that today Islam has exactly the same revolutionary potential. 1400 years ago, Islam took ignorant and backwards Arabs and it made them leaders of the world. Today Islam has exactly the same potential. Today Islam can take us Muslims who have become again ignorant and backwards, and today it can make us leaders of the world if we listen to this message. Today the problem is that our eyes have become dazzled by the brilliance of the West, and today we think that our path to salvation lies in following the West, not in obeying the teachings, not even in understanding and reading and implementing the Quran and the Hadith in our lives. Today we think that the Quran and the Hadith are obsolete. They were good 14 centuries ago, but they are no longer useful for us in our modern lives. So if I say, as I do, that today if you want to solve the economic problems of the Muslims, you will get more guidance from the Quran and Hadith than you will from a PhD at Harvard. People don't believe this. So let me just end here.